Hello everyone. This is not a story for the faint of heart. Today, we will be stepping into the darkness of the most gruesome cases, where evil not only exists, but also leaves bloody and haunting traces. This is Real Gruesome Murder Cases, a series of true stories about murders that made the whole world shudder. If you are ready to face the cold truth in the gruesome corners of humanity, come with me to delve deeper into each case. Citizen's death. She trembled uncontrollably as he pushed the muzzle into her forehead. Nobody moves or makes a sound. Any heroics, bullets will start flying. As you can probably tell, this is a bank heist. Cooperate, and I'll spare you all your lives. Please don't kill me. I'll take you to the vault right now. Shut it. I decide when we go, he replied as he jarred her head back with the barrel. The hostages looked on in slouched postures, with furrowed brows and gaping mouths, wondering if the gun's magazine was loaded or not. For the bank manager's sake, they hoped it wasn't, and that he was pretending to have a loaded gun, because they believed this sort of heist was to scare people into submission, with no real intention to harm them. After all, it was only one guy, not a group of robbers. Hey, mister, my wife's so scared, her water has just broken, exclaimed a hostage. We need medics, quickly. I said no heroics, he exclaimed, striking the butt of the gun to the bank manager's temple. She fell in a heap, motionless. Now look at what you've made me do. I mean it, people. Don't try my patience, or one by one, it'll be you lot getting the bullet. Are you crazy? My wife is in pain. She thinks the baby is in the wrong position. We need a doctor now. He sighed and approached the pregnant woman and knelt by her side. She was shaking and sweating uncontrollably. I'm so sorry about this, but I can't have you or your husband messing this up. There's $20 million in the vault, and I want some of it, no matter what the cost. Please, just take the money and go quickly. We'll say nothing to the police, replied the woman. The bank manager opened her eyes. She sat up, propping her back against the wall. All she heard was 2 shots fired, followed by a cacophony of screams and chaos. He fired another shot to the ceiling, and the room fell silent. Order was restored. Right, you lot, clean the blood up, and then drag the pregnant woman and her husband over to the far corner, he demanded. Are you fucking crazy, man? You've killed an unborn baby and the mother and father, exclaimed another hostage. In this game, there's always collateral damage. Now shut it, he said, training the Glock on him. He glanced through a window. The street outside Citizen Bank was as normal as he'd expected. So far, 2 minutes had passed since he'd entered the bank. There was another 5 minutes before the NYPD would have the building surrounded. So far, so good. With the entrance door locked, nobody had approached or tried to enter the bank. Still partially dazed, the bank manager attempted to stand. She stumbled, but he soon skittered back to her and pushed her to the floor. Stay down until I say otherwise, got it? He slid the rucksack from his back. and pulled out a large bag of cable ties and tied her hands behind her back. Then he tied her legs, leaving enough movement for her to walk, but not run. With 2 less hostages to not worry about, he made quick time in using more ties to bound the other 8 hostages. Okay, people, if I hear the slightest of sounds or sense the smallest of movements, one of you will be joining those bodies over there. He hauled the bank manager to her feet and pushed her in front to lead the way to the vault. She stumbled and fell to her knees with a hard thud. He grabbed her hair and wrenched her back to her feet. She screamed, and the hostages felt her pain. In retaliation, she spun and spat in his face. She quickly felt the back of his hand make contact with her cheekbone. It sent her tumbling for a second time, but she didn't get up. He didn't let her. Instead, he grabbed her hair and dragged her to the vault. The hostages winced, imagining her discomfort as her legs flailed in a futile attempt to stall him. Now that he's down in the vault, we have to do something? Whispered a hostage. He looked mid-30s, with a physique of a guy that worships a gym. Are you out of your fucking mind, sir? You heard what the guy said, right? If you can cut me loose, I can take him. I'm ex-military. Apprehension is my forte. I've got a small knife in my back pocket. Can you reach it? You're gonna get us all killed trying to be the hero. NYPD will be here soon. They'll take him out. Only if someone has activated the alarm. There were moments of silence. He was waiting for a reply that never came. I thought not. But the guy keeps checking his watch, and he thinks they're on their way. I can activate the alarm so the cops know, and then I'll take him out. No, man. You're not hearing me. I can't let you do this. I've got a wife and kids. He'll shoot us all. What do the rest of you think? Are you with me? The rest of the hostages didn't respond. You try anything, man. I'll take you down myself. Just trust me, man. It's worth a try, replied a hostage. He's trained. He knows what he's doing. The locks released. He turned the catch, and the door to the vault swung open. What the fuck? He said, staring into the barrel of a Glock 19. You didn't tell me there was security in the vault, he said to the manager. She connected with his gaze and dropped her shoulders. I ain't security, replied the guy standing at the entrance of the vault. Stop what you're doing, and nobody else has to get hurt. It was a stalemate situation. Both guys had their guns trained at each other, fingers twitching at the triggers, and then, bang, the guy in the entrance to the vault fell. He was soon surrounded by a pool of his own blood. He began to load as much cash as he could into the 2 large holdalls by his side. He could hardly zip them up, but to his estimation, he had at least $600,000 in each. Way less than what he wanted, but enough to start up somewhere new. With one bag on his back and the other in his left hand, he grabbed her hair with his right and dragged her back to the main foyer. where he noticed one of the hostages was missing. From out of nowhere, the hostage charged toward him, thigh and drived him to the floor, like the New York Giants were playing out in front of them. They tussled about, but the hostage found himself being overpowered and had the barrel of the Glock shoved in his mouth. Bang! All the remaining hostages jump out of their skins as blood and bits of brain matter splattered all over them. The hostage lay there in a bloody, gory mess that was too much for most of them to look. "Hey, mister," we tried to tell him it was a stupid idea, but he didn't listen, replied one of the hostages. "He's paid with his life for his insubordination." He checked his watch, and 4 minutes had passed. "Time to check out. The manager is coming with me. Inform the police I have her as my hostage, and any attempt to intercept me, and she gets the bullet, right?" Exiting the Citizen Bank, he threw the hold-alls in the trunk of his General Lee, while the bank manager got into the passenger side. He put the pedal to the metal and sped his way along Valley Stream. There were no police in sight. Perhaps the NYPD had other emergencies, he thought. He took a left and followed the sign that was heading for Brooklyn. "Okay, Max, you can stop calling me the bank manager now," said Elizabeth. "And you didn't have to be so rough on me. It had to look like you were another hostage. I just hope when you shot that guy in the vault, you were obscured from the cameras so it looked like me. But how did we miss that guy? I think I did good shooting him, but too many mistakes were made this time. I should have accounted for the guy in the vault." "Yeah, but you dealt with him pretty quick. From how we played it out, the cops will think you were innocent. But what about the hostage that thigh and drived you? If you hadn't have got the better of him, we wouldn't be here now. We've got enough money, and I don't have to work in a shitty bank anymore." He took another left and entered on to Interstate 678. He leant over to the passenger seat. Their lips engage. "New life. Here we come," she said. A family man. Chill wind blew down the long asphalt street in Palestine, Texas, picking up sud-like dust and limply turning over dead, dry leaves. The town was tired and quiet. Only a handful of pickups drove leisurely down the street. Jason Lynn, Pennsylvania, sat behind the counter of Americo Bank, shiny shoes propped up in his neighbor's empty chair, white collar unbuttoned, killing floor open on his lap. His head tipped back against the rim of the sleek swivel chair, snoring. He was the kind of man who would go bald early, but not care. The kind of man who'd get a tattoo at 40 to prove he was cool. The kind of man who was actually cool, not because of the tattoo, but because he told good jokes. Pennsylvania owned the Palestine branch of Americo Bank, but did most of the hiring, telling, and counting himself. Cheaper this way, he'd tell Americo's division manager on the phone. "But ain't you a family man?" the manager would say. The manager was a Wichita Falls man who'd grown up taking out the trash for Americo and worked his way up. Most of his underlings liked him. He had a snaggletooth and uneven sunburns, and went on jogs in the morning in bright orange jumpsuits. Yeah? But this is how you take care of a family. I got the boys to think of. Well, okay, son, you take care. Thanks, bud. Bye. Pennsylvania jerked awake when the clock chimed 8 and smacked his lips. Killing Floor slipped off his lap and bounced on the ground, which startled him. He looked over the counter, saw nothing, leaned back, and closed his eyes once more. Outside the bank, on the dry, dusty street, a little banged-up black Toyota parked crooked on the curb. The Toyota sat in the shade cast by the big stone bank, cooling off with little pings and a long sigh. Then the doors unlocked, and 5 teenagers got out. The driver was a tall boy with white hair. The girl in the passenger seat was short and smiley. The 3 others were triplets, all boys with sandy brown hair and identical grins. One of them had a backpack slung over his right shoulder. They looked at each other timidly, almost fearfully, like a group of seamen about to push off from shore and never see home again. One of the triplets said, "You sure you want to do this, Jack?" "Of course, moron. You scared?" The triplet shrugged. "It just... well, Penn's a fun guy. You know he was the one who brought watermelon for the potluck on Thanksgiving?" "Yeah," said his brother. "Where'd he get that?" The 3 brown-haired boys burst into laughter. They knew where he'd gotten it. He'd told them the day before the potluck. Penn was like that. "Shut up," the girl said, shoving one of them off the sidewalk. "Ouch, Callie." "Okay then," Jack said, running a hand through his white hair. "Let's go." The group entered the bank, easing open the glass doors without a whisper. Behind them, dry leaves scraped across the concrete sidewalk noisily, pushed along by the wind, which always seemed to be going nowhere. The 5 of them spread out, looking dead ahead as they pulled hoodies over their heads and scarves or a parent's bandana to cover their mouth and nose. Jack and his crew edged forward over the burnished granite floor. The triplets exchanged worried, excited glances, eyes crinkled up to betray identical, gleeful smiles. Jack and Callie closed in together, shoulders touching like the ranks of Roman soldiers. Jason, Pennsylvania, dozed behind the counter, the calloused fingers of his left hand barely brushing the spine of his book. Jack whispered to Callie, "Where the hell is he?" "Bank's open, right?" "Duh. Maybe he's on a break or something. He'd have left someone behind if he just took a break." Jack leaned over the counter and jumped back as if bitten by a rattlesnake. "There he is," he hissed. Callie forcibly turned one of the triplets around, unzipped his backpack, and removed a gun. "Whoa," the triplet whispered. "Is that thing real?" "Hell no," Callie said, smirking. "It's just a toy. An airsoft gun. Looks real. I took the orange thing off the front of it. The boy looked at his two brothers. Isn't that illegal? Callie smirked again. Damn right. They winced and said together, "Stop swearing." She looked like she was about to hit them, thought better of it, and turned around. "Sorry to injure your little church-going ears," she said out the corner of her mouth. Callie walked right up, the three boys behind her, like three toddlers caught stealing cookies, and slammed the fake gun on the counter. "Wake up, old man," she shouted, and lifted the gun so it pointed at the banker. Pennsylvania jerked awake and pushed his glasses back on his nose. He started to stand, but Callie shouted, "Turn around! Hands up! I have a gun!" His jaw dropped, but he did as she said. "Callie?" he asked. "Callie Roberts?" Jack shouted roughly. "Turn the cameras off right now." Pennsylvania shrugged, his hands still up. "I don't keep 'em on." "Open the door," one of the boys said in a thin voice. Callie elbowed him sharply, and he cleared his throat and said more firmly, "Open the door." Penn started at his voice, but turned and walked to the door between the bank lobby and behind the counter. Slowly, he pulled a key from his pocket and unlocked the door. He returned the key to his pocket, hands shaking slightly, as the 5 kids ran past him. Their faces were bright underneath their masks, eyes shining, separating the group and fleeing to various half-open deposit boxes. Jack let out a maniacal giggle as he scooped handfuls of mostly counted change into his hoodie pockets and the backpack. "Why don't you lock these boxes up, old man?" he shouted. Penn shook his head. "I trust you guys," he said simply, hands in pockets. "What?" Callie said after an awkward pause. She and Jack laughed, but the triplets' eyes, barely visible over their bandanas, filled with tears. Their bandanas were bright green and stenciled with their dad's initials. JLP. Jack waved his crew out. Callie kept the gun pointed at Penn's head as they backed out of the bank, faces flushed with success. Just before the doors swung shut, Pennsylvania looked straight at the triplets. Their eyes met, 4 pairs of identical eyes. Penn gave them a short, sad smile. When the black Toyota had disappeared down the cold, empty street, Penn sat down again and called the police. "Hi, Rick. I was just robbed. Can you go after him?" "Yeah, a black Toyota, it looked like. I didn't catch the license, but it's the Hoover's car." "Jack Hoover." "Yeah, Hoover. Yes, Hoover. Thanks. And, oh, Rick, give him the whole speech, will you? My boys were in that group." "No, not a kidnapping. I saw him, though. They know it ain't right. Just make sure they know it. I know they'll do right. I raised 'em right." "Yeah, well, thanks. I appreciate it." Pennsylvania leaned back with a sigh. After a moment, without cleaning up the mess of bills, and hanging open deposit doors. He picked up his book again. The Toyota tore down the highway, a trail of dead cottonwood leaves following. Callie drove this time, the needle not dipping below 70, and Jack sat in the back seat. Both grinned hard, masks and hoodies down. "Hey, where's the backpack?" Callie asked as Palestine disappeared behind them, and empty planes surrounded the lonely car. Jack looked around. "I don't know. You don't have it?" Their eyes met in the rearview mirror. "Those three," she spat. "Those... Ooh." Her hands clenched on the steering wheel. "We shouldn't have dropped them off. We should have made them come all the way. They were wimps," she responded. "I thought it was good riddance. And Mac hates kids like them buying from him." Her eyes narrowed down the highway. "Think they got cold feet? I know so. They're probably gonna tell." "What do you want to do?" Callie shrugged. "We got some in our pockets, right? That's probably enough. Mac doesn't like change, though. He said 20s or nothing." She sighed. "Well, damn it, Jack. I don't know. I want to go find them and throttle them. We shouldn't have let them come along. It was an adventure for the kids," Callie said desperately. "They wanted to do it, wanted to be the bad boys. Why am I trying to defend them?" Jack snickered. "They took our money," she shrieked. "You know what I think? I bet they're taking it back to their dad." They glared at each other. "I want to commit another crime," Callie said after a minute. "This time, let's commit murder." Jack laughed, then said, "Wait, are you serious?" She nodded. "They put in life for a murder, not for minors." "Yeah, for minors." She shook her head. "It'd be worth it. I want to teach those bastards you don't cross your own teammates." A sleek police car sped far behind them, wind tearing through the open windows, light flashing, horns blaring. The driver sat intent behind the wheel as three brown-headed boys talked quickly over each other in the back seat. The invisible murder. "Start from the beginning," I sigh, and turn back the needle of time to... What time was it? I almost chuckle. I was so desperately watching the clock tick by, and now I can barely remember what it said. 9 o'clock, I think. I try to remember everything exactly as it was. Any small detail could help. Could be the distant tapping sound, or the odd stain on a shirt, or the scrap of paper that cracks open the case. I know that. I've read the books. It happened around 9 p.m. I was sitting in the security center, doing my job, when a man walked across the camera on the 5th floor. He was just walking down the hallway, and then I take a breath. A thick layer of dust clings to my dark finger as I drag it across the desk, my mind elsewhere. In my head, I'm back in that room with all the screens and the uncomfortable squished chair that I hate. My eyes honed in on the screen, just to my left. "Take your time," coaxes the detective. He looks down at me patiently from across the rickety old desk, and then another man walked into the frame with a knife in his hand. It happened so fast. I didn't see it coming. He stabbed the man in the chest. Another steadying breath. My fingers moved to my chest of their own accord, tracing the spot where the knife penetrated. There was blood everywhere. There really was. I didn't know there could be so much from only a small stab wound. Staining his beige polo shirt, saturating the already blood-red carpet, dripping from the shimmering silver blade. What happened then? The security camera went black. I searched the other screens for the man, but he was nowhere. It's like he just what? I chuckle humorlessly at the absurdity of it all. It's like he just disappeared, I mutter. I know how crazy I sound, but still I stare into space, watching the dust particles drift in the glow of what small bit of street light seeps through the broken blinds. This room must not have been used in years. No wonder I've never noticed it before. Is that all? The detective asks. It happened very fast. And it had been fast. So very, very fast. I could have blinked and missed it. What would have happened then? The detective stares almost aggressively into my face, trying to catch a lie, but he won't find one. I would never lie about something so important. Mr. Kessler, is it? Yes, sir. Mr. Kessler, my officers are still searching the building at this time, but at the present moment, there is no evidence that a murder took place. My stomach drops. What? There is nothing unusual at the supposed crime scene you pointed out to us, and the security footage was of no assistance, he says. What? How is that possible? I saw it happen, I say, nearly shouting. It's hard to read him. But if I had to place his furrowed eyebrows and calm manner, I would say there was a twinge of bewilderment and perhaps a touch of curiosity. There is no security footage. It was missing when we got to the security center. You didn't happen to take it, did you? What? Of course not, I yell, indignation filling my bones. Why in hell would I steal the security footage? As far as I know, you were the only one in the security center after when you say the murder took place. His nonchalant manner drives me up the wall. I know he's a policeman, but how could anyone seem to care so little about a murder? Does he not believe me? But it wasn't me. I enunciate each word as if speaking to a child. Why would I get rid of the footage? I do not know, Mr. Kessler. That is exactly the answer I was attempting to obtain from you. The detective pauses thoughtfully. There was nothing at the scene of the crime. No blood, no weapon, no body. Nothing that even seems slightly suspicious. There are no missing persons reports of an elderly man in the city right now. The security footage you claim to have seen is gone. Yes, I know. You're a broken record. I roll my eyes, frustrated. Why do you expect me to believe that a murder took place in this building tonight? He asks, beginning to look annoyed and frustrated. I almost open my mouth to shout, but stop. With a start, I realize that it's a fair question. He doesn't believe me. Why would anyone? It seems so unlikely that a murder could have occurred in the first place, aside from my account. No evidence at all. Nothing except my word, and the detective has no reason to trust that. A new and cold fear rises inside me. Is someone about to get away with murder because I saw it? I mumble, unconvincingly. I only process how pathetic it sounds as it leaves my lips. Mr. Kessler, I am going to write in my report that this was a false alarm. I believe you are tired or somehow otherwise mentally distressed, and you didn't see what you think you saw. I don't know how to react. At first, I'm angry. How could the detective so easily disregard this? How could I possibly make this up? But the rest of me knows he has a point. It was a mind trick, Mr. Kessler. You're wasting my time and the time of all of my colleagues. He raises his voice, and it pulses with the kindling of anger. Go home. Get some sleep. Don't try to pull something like this again. And just be grateful you're not being charged. Now I know how to feel. I didn't try to do this. This is not my fault. And if there's even a chance I'm telling the truth, shouldn't they at least find out? The detective turns and walks toward the door behind him. But as he reaches for the tarnished golden doorknob, he hesitates. Do you recall what the so-called culprit looked like? He inquires, turning to face me again, with a look of sheer curiosity, and maybe even a trace of amusement. What's wrong with him? Didn't he just say I imagined it? Why does it matter if you think I just made it up, detective? I say, feeling snarky. I can still charge you. I sigh, attempting to recall the man with the knife. Graying hair, black t-shirt, maybe 5'9". The detective frowns. Really? 5'9"? Yeah. Why? Come on, I look at least 6 feet. The detective chuckles. Oops, just another nameless victim. I just spent the entire evening in the library reading romance books with him, wanting nothing more but to feel his lips against mine. In shock, I quickly turned my head to face her. Her black hair was flowing with the wind as she leaned against the bridge, staring out at the ocean. It was beyond beautiful. What? I managed to get out. Yep. It was you the entire time. She turned her head slightly, meeting her alluring hazel eyes with mine. We've been best friends for over 3 years now. We've gone from rivals to classmates to friends to best friends. And that's where it was supposed to stop. Nothing more, nothing less. But the more I got to know her, and the more I got to spend time with her, the faster my heart went. Every single time. And it was only until this very moment I figured out that I wasn't the only one who felt this way. A few minutes before. OMG, they found each other in the end. Now they'll get married and be together forever, she fantasized. It was adorable how oblivious she acted, as if the world was nothing but sunshine and rainbows. You realize they probably won't get together again, right? Stop being such a pessimist, Dill. They will figure out, and when they do, they'll be together again, and bam, true love at its best. I laughed. Together, we just spent 4 hours in the library, reading nothing but romance novels. It was supposed to be enjoyable, but when you have feelings for the girl that you're reading them with, it's hard not to feel a smidge of jealousy whenever the main characters do anything romantic. Ugh, I wish I could have the perfect love story. There it was. The wish that made my heart blast into smithereens. She had a crush, one that was obviously not me. She always ranted on and on about him, how she liked him, but he didn't like her. I felt the exact same way. Well, maybe if you would just tell me who he is, I could help you, I say, trying not to sound anything but teasing. Even though she's everything I wanted, I still want her to be happy, even if it meant that it wasn't with me. Do you really want to know? She reeled, leaning towards me, trying to get me to back down. I played along. I really do, I teased, leaning closer. I could feel the butterflies forming in my stomach. Okay, how about this? I give you a bunch of hints, and with them, you try to eliminate and figure out who it is. Easy enough. She leaned even closer, waiting for me to accept the challenge. I'm about to have my heart broken. I know it, but I still end up learning closer to the point where our faces are only a few inches apart as I whisper, game on. He has brown, messy hair, and his name starts with the letter D. 10 minutes passed. We decided to walk home while playing our game. Over 50 possibilities eliminated. Only 3 left. That leaves Darren, Dwayne, and Dawson, I observe. So close. All right. Here are your final 3 hints. He's a bookworm with amazing grades. He's one of my friends. And he has an interesting past. I process the pieces of information, making 3 crosses, each through someone's name. Wait, everyone's eliminated then. There's no one left. Confusion rises as I go through the hints and the names, seeing if I made a mistake. Nope, there should be one, she softly says. At this point in time, we were already halfway home, stopping right in the middle of a bridge, surrounded by cherry blossom trees. I stop to think as she leans across the railing, facing the ocean. That's impossible, I comment, going through the names for the second time, still lost. Want another hint? Present, I thought. It was me? I'm in utter shock. Has it really been me the entire time? Yeah, She pauses. Suddenly, she spins around, facing me, eyes glassy. It takes a minute to realize she's crying. Hey, what's with the tears? I carefully ask as I slowly reach my hand to touch her soft, warm cheeks. I caress her face, stroking my thumb across her cheek, wiping away her tears. She doesn't respond. She just dips her head so I don't see. I carefully pull her head back up, trying to word what I want to say carefully. Hey, look at me. Slowly, her eyelids open, and her eyes, once again, find mine. I smile, knowing exactly what I want to say. You know, I've liked you since the moment I saw you. I just was too scared to admit it. Scared that you would reject me. Scared that you wouldn't want to be friends anymore. Scared for our relationship. Yet you still pulled up the courage to tell me, even if it might have brought upon rejection or humiliation. You always were the brave one. That got her smiling. Really? She asks, her smile getting bigger and bigger as I nod. Really? Our faces are only 3 inches apart. I look at her once more. She nods. I have the go. Slowly, I close the gap. Time seemed to stop. The only hint that it didn't was the wind blowing cherry blossoms all around us. My heart pounded louder and louder, feeling as if it was going to burst out of my chest. Every time she leaned in, I pressed harder, not wanting to let go. Her lips felt warm and soft, the only sensation I was able to process. The only hint that this was all real was the emptiness felt when she would slowly lean back for air. But once she came back, it felt like a dream once again. Slowly, I brought my hand to her hair and the other to her face as she rested her hands against my chest. Her hair was soft and smelled like coconuts. Slowly, I brought the hand on her face back to my side and to her chest. Softly, I pushed, applying a small bit of pressure. She leaned back and gasped. I'd finally done it. What? She uttered in confusion. She looked down, and the realization downed her. Why? Tears started spilling as she slowly started falling back. I caught her delicate body in one hand, smirking. I'd give it another minute before you're gone. Any last words? My parents are serial killers. Together, they've had over 100 victims. Once they lay their eyes on someone, it's impossible to escape. I was no different. Forced to kill as a child, tortured till I obeyed, became a force of habit as a teenager. I thought you cared. Why? She gasped. You thought you were something special, didn't you? Well, let's make sure we get this right this time. I leaned in closer, enjoying the moment. You are just like the rest of them. I spent 3 years grooming this very moment. 3 years trying to get you to develop feelings for me, only so I could kill you in the most enjoyable way possible. I take a slow, deep breath in, a sense of happiness and satisfaction taking over me. This girl has been the hardest target so far, but I've done it. I drove the knife into her. She gasped, trying her best to stay alive, but it was of no use. The knife was deep enough into her heart to only last her a minute, tops. I gently lay her down and pull the knife out. She softly screams in pain. I get up, take one last look at my best work, smile, and walk away, spinning the knife, covered with blood in my hand. Did you ever love me, Dill? I stop. I only was able to get a few steps away from her before she screams those 6 words. I refuse to turn back, but I can't help but answer. No, you're just another nameless victim. The plunderer's bank robbery and waltzing have a lot in common. Both have defined rhythms, and they're better with a partner. After waiting my turn, like an everyday customer, I handed my note and a paper sack to the blonde girl behind the counter while pulling back my sport coat to show her the butt of my pistol. The note read, "This is a robbery. Remain calm so no one gets hurt. Fill the sack from your drawer. Have a nice day." When she scanned my note, her eyes bulged and flicked from side to side. Her frightened blue peepers filled with disbelief as she stared at me to see if this was a prank. I smiled like a friend. "Please fill it up." With trembling fingers, she stuffed bills into the sack as if she'd win a prize for the fullest bag. The gorilla behind me noticed something wrong. Maybe the sweat-gouging channels through the quivering blonde's rouge tipped him off. He grunted and grabbed me in a bear hug, pinning my arms. My marine training kicked in and I stomped the arch of his foot with the sharp leather heel of my polished Oxfords. He winced and loosened his grip. This gave me enough slack to reach behind and twist his balls. He yipped like an injured puppy and let go, slowly sinking to the floor. The bank patrons turned to stare at the commotion. Unsure what was happening, I reached through the teller's wicket and yanked the half-filled sack of money from the blonde's jittery hands. As my assailant rolled on the floor, grabbing his crotch, one of the suits in the back reached for a phone. Time to go. I strolled out of the bank before anyone attempted to jump me. Outside the bank, I wanted to run, but nothing attracts attention more than a man running from a bank with a bag in his hand. The alarm clanged, and I turned towards the bank like the other pedestrians, plastering a puzzled look on my face. A siren wailed in the distance. Sweat beaded my forehead, and I lengthened my strides short of a power walk. When I reached the corner, white exhaust flowed from the red Edsel coupe, and its big V8 growled, ready to whisk me to safety. I jumped in the passenger seat, and Marge drove away at 30 miles per hour. 2 police cruisers screamed past us in the other lane. Now, we'd have to ditch this flashy car in case anyone noticed it fleeing the scene. Marge and I have been robbing banks since I got out of the Marines in '53. My posting to Korea separated us for 3 agonizing years. And when I got back to the States, we promised each other we'd never be apart again. Although we talked about it, we never got married. We both felt that a piece of government parchment would not make us love each other any more than we did. When our cash ran low, we'd find a suitable bank in a small town, make an unauthorized withdrawal, and live comfortably on the proceeds for a few months. As long as we didn't take too much or go to the well too often, the local cops forgot us, and the FBI had enough problems with organized crime to worry about a small-town bank robbery. We never hit the same town twice. Our life between jobs was quiet and measured, spending the winter in Florida, soaking up the sun like other tourists. We danced every Saturday night and fished the local lakes. Marge loved the fall colors, so we spent September in New England before turning south for the winter. I don't remember the name of the town in Minnesota when we ran low on cash. While Marge gassed up the car, I got us a table in the Moosehead Diner. Over the blue plate special of corned beef and hash, I decided I wanted to go fishing. Margie, I've been thinking, it would be a shame to be in northern Minnesota and not go walleye fishing. How about we rent a cabin after this job and go fishing for the weekend? Marge placed her napkin on the table and pursed her lips. Okay, Harry, but all the cabins are probably rented. I reached for her hand. This is the end of the season, and we'll find a cabin somewhere, just for the weekend. Then we'll head for Vermont. She squeezed my hand and ran her thumb over my knuckles. We'll need some bait. I hadn't thought that far ahead. We'll stop at a bait shop and pick up some minnows. Or, if you'd rather, you can watch me fish. She removed her cat's eyeglasses with the fake rhinestones and leaned over the table. Not on your life, Buster. You fish. I fish. And I'll catch bigger fish. Just you watch me. I finished my coffee, left a $10 bill on the table, and wiped the crumbs off my tie. I'm going to the little boy's room, and then to work. As I walked across the street to the Imperial Bank, Marge parked the car around the corner. We took the North Road out of town towards Canada and doubled back south on a series of gravel concession roads. Navigation was Marge's job. When we hit the interstate, we turned east towards New England. The cops must have figured it out, or got lucky. They'd had 10 years to learn out our pattern. When we turned onto the interstate, 2 police cruisers, nose to nose, blocked our path to freedom. Blue and red lights flashed, and cops leaned across the hoods, pointing shotguns at us. 2 more cruisers pulled out of a side road and blocked our retreat. Marge slowed as we approached the roadblock and parked on the shoulder. A cop with a bullhorn yelled, "Get out of the car and lay on the ground." Marge turned off the ignition and gripped the wheel with hands at 10 and 2 while staring out the windshield. "Goodbye, Harry." I wiped a tear from my eye. Goodbye, Marge. I drew my pistol and shot her through the ear. Blood spattered the windshield and side window as she slumped on the driver's door. I put the pistol in my mouth and pulled the trigger. The murder of Pressy Baver. The Blauwevmans County Police Station was a horrible place for officers and criminals alike. The station had been built in 1932, and to most everyone's sadness, had been one of the only buildings to hold up during the Second World War. The station was built from old, withering bricks, and the man who was in charge of keeping the ivy along the sides of the building contained was too busy hitting on women to actually get the job done. The inside was even worse. The oak doors were creaky on their rusty hinges, and the musty concrete jail cells were cracking due to the recent heat surge the Netherlands were experiencing. The small cubicles for officers were tight, and the air conditioning rarely worked. To make things worse, the computer system was terrible. Sometimes, officers would sit for hours just to wait for a 12-page document to load. It didn't help that Blauwevmans was a city in the middle of the mountains, away from most metropolitan. Just getting into the next county took 2 hours. The only good thing that had happened to the police station in the past month was that the exterminator had came. The rats were gone, and they wouldn't be back. But from where Evian van Beek was sitting, she swore she saw a rat scurry past the chief of police's office as she and Lucas Hoysk waited to be called in for questioning. Evi tapped her feet on the wooden floors, anxiously looking around. The police station was crowded for a Sunday night. Some officers were packing up to leave for the night. Others cursed as their computers failed to upload their files. It looked like one of the cops, Sergeant Shea, was having a small party. Evi leaned over her seat, watching some of the officers chat and shove forkfuls of red velvet cake into their mouths. Maybe a birthday? Evi slouched back into her chair and sighed. Lucas bit his lip, staring curiously at the ceiling. Evi knew that look. "What denk je wel net?" Evi asked, pushing a dark hair out of her face. Lucas shot Evi an alarmed look. "Evi," he hissed, "talk ahead angles." Evi gave him a puzzled look. They were both studying English as a world language. They were almost fluent. But why practice for the upcoming test when they're in a police station about to get questioned as suspects of a murder? Evi looked around before repeating her question. "What are you thinking about?" Lucas rubbed his strawberry blonde hair. "They can't understand us if we talk in English," he said, his Dutch accent well enunciated. Lucas tilted his head to the side, indicating the officers eating cake behind him. Lucas continued, a worried look on his face. "I know the plan didn't exactly go according to plan." Evi shot Lucas a deadly glare. "Lucas, we killed..." Evi peered over her shoulder, making sure the officers weren't paying any attention to them. She lowered her voice. "Pressy. We killed Pressy. the mayor's son, but they have no proof it is us. All they saw was the security tapes, Lucas stated, exasperated. We were running. So what? That could mean we were running away from the murderer. Evie bit her lip. We did it. We have to confess. If we don't, and they find out it was us, there will be much bigger. Is it consequences? Lucas shook his head. Consequences, you mean? But what if they don't find out it was us? We could lie and be done with this. And what if they do? Evie hissed loudly, tears sparkling in her eyes. She tugged at the neckline of her purple shirt. Either way, I do not want to end up in Gavanjanus. Lucas frowned. I'm afraid neither lying nor telling the truth will get you out of jail. At least we have a shot if we lie, but that is not the right thing to do. We could get a worse sentence if they do find out it was us. Lucas, we killed someone, Evie cried. Small tears began to flow from her blue eyes and stream down her face. Lucas looked over at her helplessly, gritting his teeth. His knuckles were white as they gripped the seat of his chair. They're going to call us in any minute, Lucas said softly. So pick your poison. Evie dried her tears, sighing sadly. She looked up and pointed to the chief's door. Lucas, the chief. Ich kommt heran. Evie gasped. Lucas suddenly looked very worried, but he put on a fierce face. As the chief turned the brass doorknob from the inside, Lucas took a deep breath and whispered, Let's go, Evie. Barvan de Vries was a tall man with wispy black hair and piercing dark blue eyes. He wore his shiny gold badge proudly and was never without a gun under his sweater. In the work area, he wore his gun on his utility belt. Much to the chief's pleasure, the weapon seemed to intimidate the teenage suspects in front of him. The two, according to his files, were seemingly clean, but were the primary suspects for the murder of Précy Baver, Evian van Beek, and Lucas Hoysk. Chief de Vries's lips curled. This would be fun. The chief put on a menacing face and looked from Lucas to Evie. The girl was fidgeting slightly, almost unsure of what to think. Lucas, however, seemed relatively calm. It was an odd combination of suspects, especially partners in crime. But then, many odd people had entered the Blauwe-Mans County Police Station. This pair would be no different from the rest. But, the chief thought, odd combinations often have, shall we say, different stories. Barvan tapped his door with his knuckles. His eyes trained on Evie. His first victim. The chief gestured to Evie, whose eyes widened. Evian van Beek? Evie bit her lip. It looked as if the girl was blinking back tears. Ja, she answered. De Vries nodded approvingly. De tide is here. Komen, Evian, the chief said. Clapping his hands, Evie looked desperately at Lucas, and then at the chief. Alsjeblieft, een moment? She asked in a small voice. Lucas gave Evie and alarmed look as the chief processed what the suspect had just said. De Vries scowled, but gave in. "Prima," the chief muttered, his eyebrows furrowing. "Fine," Evi repeated in English, sighing. She turned to Lucas. "I'm telling the truth," she said sternly. "It's the right thing to do." Lucas looked angry for a moment, but then softened. His cheeks were red. "Fine," he spat. "But if we get out of here with no mark on our permanent record, you can thank me." "So you are still—" Evi stopped, eyes glancing toward Barvin. "At least I will have done something for the good of the world. I am, as they say, avenging his death, if that is right context." Evi lowered her voice. "We killed him. Jail time, nothing, will take that fact away." Sergeant Patrick Shea stepped out from the open room. His party was being held. He had been leaning on the door sill and listening to the pair's conversation since they had been seated. Sergeant Shea nodded to the chief. "Mynheer De Vries," Shea addressed the chief. Barvan raised an eyebrow. "Yeah?" he asked. The sergeant gestured to the teens. Shea turned and gave Lucas and Evi a small smile. Then, in crisp English, he said, "These are our killers, sir. Evian van Beek and Lucas Hoysk, convicted of the manslaughter of Pressy Baver